Hello everyone, this is Mitch and welcome back to our tutorial-ish Let's Play of Kerbal Space Program. This is episode 12, I believe, and it's going to be a bit of a mixed episode. First of all, I want to give you an update on the Dunian Foothold operation. As you can see, it has yielded a bunch of science already, some money due to contracts. Basically, we have achieved this by simply lending another time and letting the lab run a bunch of data and send it back to Kerbin. So one of the first things I want to show you is right here. I've actually enabled the patents licensing strategy, which means that from now on, half of the science we produce is actually going to go back into funds in this proportion, basically. And that includes science we transmit from science labs. So we've essentially cut our science progress in half, but we're going to be making a lot more money. And that money is important because I want to upgrade the research and development building. So R&D, research and development, almost 2 millions. I mean, it's 1 million and just about 700,000 dollars, I suppose, monies, units, whatever. And I'm going to do that right away. Boom. And the reason is I want to spend that science. So first node I want to get is the actuators, because I want to work on a rescue vehicle that's actually going to grab the parts in which the Kerbals are stranded. Also, this can be useful for, well, actually it says no fuel crossfeed. If I recall correctly, it's possible to activate fuel crossfeed. Either way, it's not a major issue, but it lets you anchor things together without needing docking ports and that kind of stuff. It lets you do stuff with asteroids. Neat things. So I'm gonna grab it. It's pretty cheap. Another cheap one I'm gonna grab is this one for the large reaction wheel, mostly. Propellant tanks, monopropellant tanks are useful as well. Werner is relatively useful. This thing is kind of useful, but mostly the large reaction wheel. Another one is field science to get our rover wheels. A rover probe core, although it's not required, it's kind of useful. The external command seat is kind of useful as well. And we're going to go straight for advanced motors so we can actually build large vehicles in the future. So that's that. I wanted to grab advanced science tech. It unlocks mining equipment. Woo, words difficult. Mining equipment, and one of the last science experiments, the gravioli detector, which is actually quite powerful. It provides a lot of science points. It's biome dependent, so that means that you can get a lot of science reports from different biomes. So always useful. Experimental science, no, not yet. Ion propulsion, not yet. I definitely do want the most powerful antennae available, and that comes in the form of this science node. So now we can make truly powerful interplanetary relays. So that's going to be useful in the future. But even more useful is this node. And why is it? Well, we can make powerful interplanetary relays, but this thing is a probe control point, and it's the only one that is multi-op capable. And that basically means that even without a direct connection to a probe core, well, by direct, I mean a single op direct connection, I can control a probe core from another vehicle. And that's very useful because, for example, if we go to ELU, I no longer have to remote control a probe or whatever I want from Kerbin. I can just bring a pilot on the same vehicle as this remote guidance unit, and I'm going to be able to control other probes even with relayed signal. So if I have a local network, I don't need a connection with Kerbin. So that's really, really useful. So we're going to unlock that. And that's about it for what I really wanted for now. I'm probably gonna unlock this node, although I'm not a big fan of planes, not really that good with them, but it's gonna allow us to unlock this part with this node right away, which is the air brake, which is actually useful if we want to make maybe reusable rockets that land with a powered landing, for example. You can slow them down using this part and, you know, lower your fuel requirement and so on and so on. So that's a useful thing. I mean, well, I don't have enough anyways. So that's gonna be it for the science tree right now. Yeah. So as I said, mixed episode. I still have some money left over because I've done some contracts. I've planted a flag on Duna, gotten science from around Duna a few times, which I've completed. The orbital contract we've done in the first episode of the Dunian Foothold thing. I've picked up another plant flag of Duna, which is great. I'm gonna probably finish explore Duna with another craft that I'm just gonna have fly around Duna and come back to Kerbin. Although this episode should end with the return mission from Duna. I might still do stuff around Duna off camera, unless it's something major. I'm gonna record it of course. But if it's not something big, I'm gonna leave Duna alone. And I want to rescue Phildos in this episode because the deadline is within 2 years, and long missions can easily last longer than 2 years. Not to mention waiting for launch windows. So we're gonna do that right now. So I'm gonna put a cut in here. And I'm gonna be back when I have my vehicle, and I'm probably gonna make actually a quick montage of the rescue because, well, it's just low Kerbin orbit stuff, so it's nothing really new. And then we're gonna cut back to Duna and shoot that bullet back for Kerbin. We don't have fuel to brake, so we're gonna need to shoot straight for an atmosphere encounter. It should be fun. And yeah, I'll see you in a moment. And I'm back. So it's been a week real time. Sorry if I missed last week's video. Well, long story short, I'm working, I'm moving, and I'm doing a summer class on top of potentially having a contract. So anyways, a real life contract, of course. So the first thing you want to notice is the date. So basically I have time warped and done some stuff off camera to get us ready for this second part of the video. I have rescued Phildos, and I'm shortly going to put a quick montage of the rescue. However, last time we picked up a contract to plant another flag on Duna, so I went for a third landing, more of a token landing. I mean, we've accumulated more than enough science, and I mean, yeah, we've accumulated a lot of science from Duna. So the science tree is getting pretty full. Not quite there yet, but anyways. So yeah, I've rescued Phildos, I've planted a flag on Duna, done a couple of things, and now I'm going to show you the Phildos rescue, and afterwards we are going to return from Duna with our astronauts, or Kerbonauts. So, see you in one more moment. Of course, you can always look at the description for the timestamps. And I'm back once more. I hope you've enjoyed the rescue if you've watched it. I'm not going to share the vehicle simply because I discovered some flaws when doing the rescue, basically. So maybe we can spend an episode or maybe even a capsule on rescues if you guys want. But I'm going to rework the vehicle. Anyways, here we are back at the station. I've already taken the liberty of moving all the crew to the return vehicle, basically. I left the lab full of science. There are still experiments in here. This could be fully reusable in case we need it. But for now, we're gonna put a pause, or at least a hiatus, anyways, to the Duna operation. After 3 landings and a lot of science earned, we are going to give our Kerbonauts a vacation back on Kerbin. So I'm gonna go ahead and undock the return vehicle right away. I could refuel it, but in fact I really can't because of the heat shield. I believe there is no straight connection to another fuel tank, but that's fine because shooting for Kerbin, shooting for Kerbin from Duna. Yes, Kerbin, without an insertion burn. As you can see, there's a window right now for only 600 meters per second. We have more than that left in the tank, and we don't need to slow down that much, at least we shouldn't, I hope, because we've got this really huge heat shield right there that should protect everything else behind it. So hopefully it's going to do its job. Fingers crossed. Let's actually put a quick save in here. Yeah, so let's undock. Disable crossfeed. No, that's not what I want at all. Undock. Alright, we're gonna pull ourselves away from the station gently. Turn off the SAS because we don't the RCS because we don't need it to turn. And then I'm gonna push us away from the station further using RCS again. And then we will get ready to make a maneuver node to get back to Kerbin. Alright, good enough. Map view. So we are flying nicely around Duna, and we want to go back to Kerbin. So how do we do this? Well, we want to leave Duna going retrograde. So that should be it. Wait, we're going that way, that's right. So that would be prograde and that would be retrograde. We shall see. So if we fire prograde relative to our own orbit, oh, that gives us an encounter with Ike. We don't really care. And yes, we get much, much further down in terms of orbit. A lot closer to the sun, to Kerbal, however you want to call it. Now, of course, the more we burn, if we want to be leaving in a prograde way, we need to face ourselves more and more prograde for the maneuver. We want maximum efficiency, because we know we are supposed to be able to do this with 600 meters or so. Oh, it would help if I targeted Kerbin. Now, that's not exactly the encounter I was hoping for. So let's tweak. Let's see. There we go. That looks much closer. There we go. Encounter. Pretty much for exactly what the tin says, basically. So that's good enough. And then we'll just tweak to get ourselves straight down into the atmosphere relatively quickly. So we can use the heat shield. Hopefully 3/4 ablator is plenty. That's pretty much it. So, getting ready for the maneuver. There we go, 48 minutes. Of course, we don't need to wait that long for real. 100 times. And we're going to be using a little over half our fuel tank, so we could make some pretty significant changes to our orbit once we're gone with that much fuel. So there isn't too much to worry about, except re-entry heat. Alright, getting close. So that's going to be, what, a 30-second burn, maybe? It's not going to be that long. Activate the engine. Let's try to be precise. Alright, and firing. So these astronauts are saying goodbye to Duna. And in what, less than a year, they'll be back around Kerbin for our second interplanetary mission. So I've already kind of planned where I want to go next, but I'm going to reveal that in the next episode. But let's say I'm making preparations. I'll give you guys a hint too. It's kind of the next alphabetical celestial body. Alright, let's see. Is that an encounter as it is? No. Yes, now it is. There we go. Simple as that, as predicted. Alright, let's time warp a little bit. Are we going to get into an encounter with Ike? No. That's fine. Only part of this crew has actually seen Ike from closer. I think it was Jeb. One of the vehicles actually went by Ike on its arrival. Alright. So we don't need signal because we have a pilot on board anyways. And there we go, leaving Duna in a day. Let's be a little bit more cinematic here. Duna becoming really, really small. What's the button for the interface? Is that? Yeah. There we go. Time acceleration. Let's see. Duna becomes smaller and smaller. Oh, we saw Ike's shadow. Yep. We are leaving for good, at least with this vehicle. Bye-bye, Duna. And Ike becoming a tiny, tiny little dot. And it's probably invisible on your screen now anyways. So we are back around the sun, I believe. Yes, we are in orbit of the sun. I suppose we could say a suborbital trajectory since we are going to encounter Kerbin. We can see time is actually going by really fast because this red line is actually signal from Kerbin's station. So that's the speed at which Kerbin is rotating at the moment. So days are just going by right now. So I'm gonna save you the trouble of waiting that long, and we're just gonna max the time warp until we get closer to Kerbin, and then we're gonna make an adjustment burn, let's say here, and we're gonna shoot straight for the atmosphere. Ideally we want a periapsis of about maybe 20 to 30 kilometers. It's gonna be rough, but we need to make sure that we actually get captured instantly. Otherwise, we'll just launch back into space. And we don't want that. Okay, getting close to my intended target. Let's actually save. Return to Kerbin. Save. Now we're not time warping anymore. We're gonna focus our view on Kerbin. Open the maneuver node and zoom in. Okay, so we're coming in below. So we're gonna want to adjust the normal trajectory. That looks pretty level. And now we want to get much closer. Whoa. That is super sensitive right now. It's like a few meters per second, not even. It's making a great deal of difference. That's already pretty close. That'll be good enough. So we'll execute this maneuver. Try to be as precise, so we're gonna actually limit the engine to a very low level. Thrust limiter. Maybe almost 10% of its maximum thrust. And we're gonna actually go ahead and do this right away, since it's not going to change that much in the grand scheme of things. Getting there. Let's watch that orange line. And we can get the periapsis even closer and into the atmosphere at a later moment. If we need it. Well, we will need it, because we don't have the braking fuel. So that's pretty close. Now, if we do something like this, which direction do we need to go to get closer to Kerbin? Okay. The radial with the little... Actually, since we have a skilled pilot, that's radial in. So let's go right ahead and do that. And we can actually get ourselves suborbital right from here. So let's burn. So see that's already suborbital. That's how sensitive it is. That's with 10% on the engine and just giving it a slight tap of thrust. So how about we go like this? That's a fifth of what we had previously. That's very precise. 28 kilometers. Does that sound reasonable? I have no idea. But that's an atmospheric encounter. So let's time warp again and see if this works. And if it doesn't, we can still return to this point through the quick save. Let's see if we can start. Let's see if we can see Kerbin actually from here. Where would it be? I don't think we can see it yet. No, probably not. It should be in that vicinity, I suppose. Oh, there's a pixel. It's getting bigger. That's the moon flashing by. Are we in the sphere of influence of Kerbin yet? Not quite. Oops, that's slowing down. Let's accelerate again. Okay. So let's see what kind of crazy speeds we reach when we enter the atmosphere. Now, oh yeah, let's make this cinematic again a little bit. Watch Kerbin getting closer and closer. Actually, we're getting closer to Kerbin. We are catching up with it very fast. The Mun just spinning around. Now I'm being careful because the speed is astronomical at this point. Interface. So it's not so bad actually. We are coming in, well, we're still pretty far from Kerbin, but the speed is much less than I thought it would be, which is good. It's not as bad as Dre's. Now we don't need to be pointing that way. We'll be wanting to point retrograde. And we'll be able to bleed off 400 meters per second instantly. Well, almost instantly. Oh, it's not going to be instant if I keep the thrust limiter on. Alright, let's see what this gives us. Of course, the orbital speed is going to rise at a tremendous rate until we reach the actual apoapsis. It's not quite as bad. From Dre's, I think we hit the atmosphere at almost 5 kilometers a second. So it's definitely much more significant from Dre's to Kerbin than from Duna to Kerbin. Let's wait until we're a little bit closer. Sadly, we'll be on the dark side. The planet, we won't need the solar panels at this point. We have plenty of charge to hold retrograde. And try to save a little bit of money. Alright, so we're coming in quite fast. I don't think it's a lethal speed. That's very good, actually. Let's point ourselves retrograde again. And shed some speed. All the way. Burn all that fuel. We don't need it. Not anymore. Now, of course, that's going to take our periapsis even lower. That's fine. We have drogue parachutes, and wow, that's actually pretty decent. Let's try to go a little bit higher. Let's use the RCS fuel. Is that working? Yes, it is. I'm going to try to lift up our periapsis a little bit so we don't fall into the atmosphere quite as hard. Yes, it's raising our... Well, no, it's actually insignificant in terms of orbital speeds. Well, we're actually captured already. That's pretty good. And we're burning the monopropellant at a very decent rate. Hopefully we don't smash into the landscape. Now that's the most worrying thing. Okay, no fuel, no monopropellant. It's just left, just the parachutes left. So we're gonna point the vehicle at an odd angle just to ditch the... There we go. And now we want to point retrograde because we're going to be going down very fast. Hopefully we'll do this on the first try. I think we are. We are definitely doing this on the first try. Plenty of ablator. UG shield, parachutes, fuel, some fuel to decelerate anyways. Oh, we hear the engine burning up. Now this is much safer than our return from Dre's because the heat shield is much wider than the vehicle, so we are not exposing any part to the airflow behind the heat shield. So there's only the heat shield that's suffering from re-entry effects, basically. And the center of mass is fairly low, so it's not going to deviate either. Wow, already reaching speeds without heat effects, slowing down rapidly. We can actually even deploy the drogue parachutes. That was perfect. So let's do that. Drogue parachutes. We're gonna keep the heat shield. It has a lot of ablator left. It might be a little heavy. Might ditch it at the last second if it's a little too heavy, but it's gonna be good for impact protection as well. Since this is the crude module that's right below the heat shield, if we ditch it, then we might hit the crew module on the ground or on the surface of the sea, and I don't want it to hit too hard. It should be safe, it should be plenty safe, but let's just keep the heat shield for now. Besides, we can get refunded for part of the ablator and the heat shield if we bring it back intact, so why not do that? So let's speed things up a little bit. Yeah, we'll go for a water landing. Perfect, very soft and level. Still going a bit fast. Let's deploy the other parachutes. Altitude 500, so I think I tweaked the altitudes on those so that we don't have to watch the thing landing for several minutes due to it being slowed down way high up. And second set of parachutes opening. Yes. And yeah, that's a very safe speed. Very nice. So that's the end of our Duna operation. Now we have a bunch of copies of experiments stored in there. Most of them we ran in the mobile processing lab in orbit. We're going to see if we're going to get the science for it. We should get it. So last 100 meters. Coming down gently. And splashdown. There we go. Staying upright. Very nice. Let's recover the vessel. That should also complete the contract of the Duna exploration, of returning a vessel from a flyby of Duna. That was actually, much more than a flyby. That was an extended mission on orbit and even suborbital landing. We do get the science. Wow, we would have gotten 2,000. But we're actually exchanging 1,000 science for a lot of funds, which is great actually, because the rocket I've prepared for the next mission costs 60% of all the rockets I've made for Duna, for all the rockets. So if we count the lander, the return vehicle, the tug, and the space station, that single rocket costs 60% of all those rockets put together. So it's a pretty ambitious project. Alright. And we actually got 80% of the funds back as well. Not to mention, oh, they've got extra XP. I wonder what that is. Because we could actually gain the XP from the mobile processing lab. There is an option that lets you level up your astronauts while in flight using the mobile processing lab. So I wasn't expecting to gain more XP. It's not much. But still, this is a very experimented crew. This is really good. Let's see now. This has completed some contracts. So explore Duna, as I said. Yes, very good. So we have essentially returned a vehicle from a flyby of Duna, which completes the contract from the world's first records, which is very good. Parameter, yeah, that's it. And world first milestones. Home from a flyby of Ike. So yeah, one of the astronauts actually went around Ike. Home from a flyby of Duna. Home from orbit of Duna. Sadly, no parts of this vehicle has been to the surface of Duna, but that's plenty fine. So that's the situation. We've got almost 500,000 more credits in the bank. We've got 1,000 science points. And let's see, do we have a world's first contract that has unlocked? Yes, explore the Mun. Well, that's actually quite the letdown. I mean, the Mun is right next door. We've been to Duna already. So I suppose we'll be funding the next missions from our pockets mostly. But that's okay. That's basically why I put in the measures, the strategies in there, so we would have funds for the next missions without relying on the world's first, because that's really unreliable actually. All right, so I'm quite happy with the results of this mission. So if you've enjoyed, if you liked, if you learned something, if this helped you, please leave a like, comments, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Show me some support, because this series is actually seeing less views than anything else I'm doing, but I still want to see it through. So that's it. Thank you for watching. See you later. Bye bye.